Somewhere in southern France, roughly 30,000 years ago, a man is digging. The ground is frozen. His hands are bleeding. He has been digging for hours. The others stand around him, not helping, not leaving, just watching. In the hole at his feet is a woman. She is wrapped in ochre, the same red powder they used to paint the cave walls. Her knees are pulled to her chest. Beside her, someone placed a carved bone pendant, a string of shells, a tool she used every day of her life. Nobody told them to do this. There was no priest, no book, no law. They just knew, the way you know, that this moment required something more than leaving her in the grass. We have been burying our dead for at least 100,000 years, maybe longer. And the way we did it tells us more about who we are than almost anything else we have ever done. The oldest intentional burial ever found was in a cave in Israel called Qafzeh. Inside, researchers found the skeleton of a young woman, roughly 13 years old, buried with a child placed across her arms. Not her child, a child from the same camp. The bones had been arranged deliberately. Red ochre stained the soil around them. Nobody eats ochre. Nobody hunts with it. The only reason to coat a body in red powder before covering it with earth is because you believed it meant something. That belief is 100,000 years old, and it didn't start there. In a cave in Spain called Atapuerca, researchers found something stranger. Deep inside a chamber with no signs of habitation, no fire pits, no tools, no food remains, they found the bones of at least 28 individuals. The cave is called the Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of Bones. The people who carried those bodies there were not even fully human. They were Homo heidelbergensis, an ancestor species that walked the earth 430,000 years ago. They had brains smaller than yours. They had never built a city or written a word, and yet they dragged the bodies of their dead through hundreds of meters of dark cave passages to lay them together in the same place. Nobody knows why. There was no practical reason. There never is. Grief may be the oldest thing about us. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, sometimes carry the bodies of their dead infants for days, even weeks after death. Elephants return to the bones of their fallen and touch them with their trunks, standing in silence for hours. Crows have been observed gathering around a dead crow in what researchers cautiously call a funeral. But no other species buries its dead. No other species wraps a body in red and places a tool beside it for a journey it will never take. Something happened in the human mind that did not happen anywhere else. We looked at the body of someone we loved, and we could not accept that they were simply gone. We needed to do something. We needed the ending to mean something. That need is still in you. It has never left. By 30,000 years ago, burials had become elaborate. The Sungir site in Russia contains the remains of a man buried with more than 3,000 ivory beads sewn into his clothing. Each bead took roughly 45 minutes to carve. That is over 2,000 hours of work. Someone spent months, possibly years, making things to bury with a man who would never see them again. These were not wealthy people. They had no currency, no storage, no surplus in any modern sense. In graves across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, researchers have found food placed deliberately beside bodies. Cuts of meat, bowls of grain once farming began, fruit, seeds, things that perish, things that would be useless to anyone underground, unless you believed underground wasn't the end. The evidence suggests that early humans did not think of death the way we fear it. They thought of it as a transition, a departure. The need to believe that death is not the end is not a product of civilization. It is older than civilization. It is older than language as we know it. It may be as old as grief itself. At a site in Italy, researchers found a burial where someone had returned to the grave after the body had decomposed, removed specific bones, and reburied them elsewhere. This is called secondary burial. It happened across dozens of cultures for thousands of years. At Çatalhöyük in Turkey, a Neolithic settlement roughly 9,000 years old, people buried their dead directly beneath the floors of their homes. They slept above them, cooked above them, raised children above them. The dead did not leave the house. They stayed. Researchers found evidence that people sometimes dug up the skulls of their ancestors and kept them, plastering the faces in clay, painting on features, placing them in prominent positions in the home. Not as morbid objects, as presences, as elders who had not entirely departed. Imagine sleeping above your grandmother, having breakfast above your father, living inside the same four walls where the people who made you were still, somehow, kept. It sounds strange, but it is not so different from the photograph on your wall, the ring you kept, the chair nobody sits in. They also grieved together. Every burial site that shows signs of ritual also shows signs of gathering. The Sungir site, the Qafzeh Cave, the Pit of Bones. The funeral did not just honor the dead, it rebuilt the living. We still do all of it. We still wrap bodies. We still paint them and dress them and place things beside them. We still gather. We still feed people at funerals because grief empties the body, and food is the oldest form of comfort we know. We still return to graves. We still talk to the dead, standing in front of stones in the cold, saying things we never got to say. None of this was taught to you by a civilization. It was handed to you across 100,000 years of people who did not know what death was, but could not stand to do nothing about it. The man in southern France, hands bleeding, digging in the frozen ground. He did not know you. He did not know your name or your grief or the specific weight of what you have lost. But he knew this, that the people we love deserve more than disappearance, that the ending has to mean something, that we owe the dead at least the ceremony of being missed. He knew it the same way you know it. He just knew it first.